All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lisa Partida with Home Again LA. Today we have our friend and partner, Tom Fuentes with Bank of Hope, and today's topic is using credit cards. So I'll go ahead and pass it along to Tom.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so this is a quick workshop. We only have two sections to cover, but this is essentially using credit cards. Um, in section one, we're going to explain essentially how credit cards work, define important key terms associated with credit cards, because there's some like acronyms and stuff that we should get used to that you probably have heard before, actually, but we're going to go over those. And then choosing a credit card based on your specific needs, because your needs may be different than mine, than different from someone else. So in section one, we're going to talk about how credit cards work. So the key takeaway is going to be knowing how credit cards work, so you can more effectively shop around for one that meets your specific needs. Um, but first, like, what is a credit card? Let's talk about that, or what you need to know about credit cards. So a credit card is essentially a revolving line of credit. That means that the balance goes up and down as you use it, make purchases, and as you make payments on it. So credit cards can be a convenient way to buy goods and services without having cash if you don't have cash on hand. It's essentially you buy now, you pay later. Uh, there is a limit on how much you can borrow on the card at one time, however. That's called the credit limit. So that's one of our key terms, credit limit, which is sometimes referred to as the credit line. The creditor will set it using several factors, such as your credit history or credit score. Credit cards require you to pay at least a portion of the bill every billing cycle, usually referred to as the minimum payment. Okay, that's usually a small portion. It's usually represents 5% or less of the total balance that you carry, or that you actually owe. So you can always pay more than the minimum payment, and we'll explore later on how you can use that to save money over time. Important financial tool. How are credit cards an important financial tool? So there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. So paying your credit card bill will regularly by the due date builds evidence to your creditor that you're actually credit worthy. So this can be a good strategy if you're trying to increase your credit score, because that's built into part of the scoring model. That's what we talked about last week in that session. The creditor has to receive at least the minimum payment by the due date. So it doesn't count as a one-time payment if you put your payment in the mail on the due date. But we'll talk about that in section two. And the opposite is also true. If the creditor does not receive at least the minimum payment by the due date, that can damage your credit history and decrease your scores potentially. A credit card can help you pay for emergency expenses when you can't pay for them in cash. So, for example, you might need to have a car repair, your refrigerator might break down, you may need to replace your washer or your dryer, for example. You don't need to pay the credit card bill like immediately, like if you would make a purchase when you have cash on hand. But remember, eventually the time comes where you're going to have to pay that money back on the credit card. Um, you have the right to dispute any fraudulent charges that may occur. So that's kind of one way that you can think of a credit card as a financial tool. With cash, it could be lost, stolen, damaged in a natural disaster, for instance. Um, uh, if your cash is stolen, you can try to get it back, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you owe. If someone gets a hold of your credit card and makes purchases that you didn't authorize, you have the potential to get the money back. It's a kind of a way to think about it. So you have the right to dispute certain charges for goods and services, also that have been delivered that you've agreed on. Think about if you make a purchase on Amazon and you receive something that's damaged. If the retailer is not willing to give you the money back, in most cases, Amazon will. I haven't had any problems in the past. But you might run into a problem. Let me give you a real world scenario. A few months ago, my wife was traveling. She purchased an airline ticket. I want to say the company, but I won't I won't mention it. I won't throw them under the bus. But she purchased an airline ticket. The ticket, she's at the airport, the plane gets delayed. And she's supposed to connect at another airport so that she can get home. But because the plane was so delayed, she was going to miss the connection. Essentially, what happens is you get into a dispute. She used her credit card, but you get in a dispute with the retailer, the airline in this instance, and the airline had this really long, really hard process for her to get her money back. She went through the process and it was like a month and she never heard back from the airline on whether or not they were going to honor the refund because she essentially missed her connecting flight. Well, eventually she just contacted her credit card, filed a dispute, and the credit card company took care of it. So that's kind of one way that you can use the credit card as a financial tool. And we never heard back from the airline, but the credit card company took care of it. Thank goodness. Um, Cards that are not credit cards. Let's talk about that. Okay. Charge cards. Charge cards are used like credit cards, but they do not involve credit. You must pay the entire balance every month. Prepaid cards, um, often referred to as store value cards, also do not involve credit. Money is loaded onto these cards in advance, and you can use the card to access the money when you make purchases. Think of a prepaid Visa or American Express card. Debit cards. Debit cards generally do not involve credit at all. You use the credit, excuse me, you use a debit card, and essentially that's linked to your checking or your savings account. So anytime you use them, the money is taken out directly from that account that's linked, which is always going to be a checking or a savings. Some retailers may allow you to process a transaction using a debit card, like a credit transaction, but it still takes out from your checking or your savings account. Okay. Let's talk about the truth in lending disclosure, or TILA, TILA. So credit card rates and fees can vary greatly from card to card. So understanding the terms can allow you to compare offers between cards. The Federal Truth in Lending Act, or TILA, TILA, is a disclosure. It's a written disclosure that creditors must give prospective credit card customers. It contains important rate and fee information. The TILA disclosure is a helpful tool for you to compare offers against each other. Okay. And often this is going to come down to things like, what are the rates and fees compared to these two cards? So let's talk more specifically about understanding rates and fees. Okay. So the APR, I'm sure you've seen this acronym before. It stands for annual percentage rate. It's the cost of credit expressed as a yearly rate. It includes interest and other charges. So the APR is a key term to look at when you're shopping for your credit card. If you might keep a balance on your credit card account, you'll want to shop for a lower APR. If you expect to pay your credit card bill in full each month, it may be more important to compare things like if there's an annual fee attached to the card, am I going to get any rewards associated to having this cards, or any other charges that may be associated to that card. But you may also use the card for unexpected expenses. So you may still want to consider the APR when shopping around. Credit cards likely have more than one APR. For example, credit cards will have different APRs for purchases, which will have a different APR from a balance transfer from another card. Because one of the other things about credit cards is that they allow you to do a balance transfer, And essentially what that means is that you can transfer the balance from one credit card that's in your name to another credit card that's in your name. But remember that the APR generally is different from the purchase APR, okay? And then that's even more different than the cash advance APR. Some credit cards allow you to take cash out from the card. Typically, using the credit card to get cash out, the APR is 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 very high, and it's higher than the purchases and the balance transfer typically. Um, but let's talk about the cash advance idea as a key term. So it's different from using your debit card. Um, with a debit card or ATM card, when you're withdrawing cash from that linked account, which is typically your checking or your savings, and that's your cash. When you're doing a cash advance on a credit card, you're borrowing that money from the credit card, from Visa, from MasterCard, from American Express, or whoever you have. When you get a cash advance on your credit card, that APR is going to be way higher than the purchase APR typically. And then interest will likely start accruing as soon as you take out the cash advance, which is different than the purchase APR. Now, where you're going to get all the information on this stuff is that I want you to remember that it's important to read your cardholder agreement to understand the key terms and what they consider a cash advance specifically. So, for example, cash advance will likely include getting cash from an ATM or in person from a provider of financial services. Borrow against your credit limit using convenience or access check. Make a wire transfer or purchase foreign currency. Okay, those all could be lumped into the cash advance category. Another important term is penalty APR. The creditor will likely increase the rate on your credit card by a large amount if it does not receive at least the minimum payment due by the due date. So you're likely to incur a penalty APR. The penalty APR may be double what the regular APR is. The penalty rate may apply if you are more than 60 days late. You're going to get the information on that if that's applicable to your card in that TILA disclosure that we talked about in the last slide. Interest rates can be fixed or variable. Fixed rates means the interest rate will not change until the creditor tells you in writing it will change. Variable rate means the interest will likely change more frequently. Variable rates for credit cards are tied to another interest called the index, called the index. If the interest rate on a credit card is variable, it'll go up and down as that index number goes up and down. Let's talk about low introductory APRs. And this is why it's important to shop around for different kind of cards, because you may be offered a lower rate when opening a brand new account with someone. And typically, low introductory APRs are often referred to as teaser rates, or sometimes offered for a limited time to attract new customers in. Creditors must clearly tell you how long these introductory rates are going to last. They can't impose new rates until after that advertised period, which must be at least 6 months. It's very important to know when the teaser rate ends and what the new rate will be, or how that new rate will be determined. If you do not pay off the card in full before the teaser rate ends, be prepared to pay what could be a much higher interest rate on your existing balance in any future purchases. For example, a credit or a card might offer no interest on purchases for the first 15 months. But after that 15 months is over, the interest rate might be variable between, say, 15.5% to 25.5%. Yeah, so we have these sections in the participant guide, and in this try it section, which please check this out after the workshop, after we have talked about more key terms and when we've identified things that you may not have heard of before. Check this section out. And in this section, essentially what it covers is learning about credit card fees. We kind of just scratched the surface. But in the participant guide, there's gonna be a chart like you're seeing here. And this doesn't go over this actually does have all the fees. So it's going to go over late fees, annual fees, cash advance fees, foreign transaction fees, balance transfer fees, credit limit fees. I'm sorry, credit limit increase fees and over limit fees. And what I don't think we have it here. No, we don't. But what we do have on the bottom is a definition list. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to match the key term or the key fee with the term. And you'll have a list of terms that you're able to fill in. This will help you understand the definition of the fees a little bit more robustly. So I'll give you an example. In that answer key or in that definition list, when we have late fees, you would pull out of the definition list. These fees are charged for not making payments on time. So you would pull that one out. And another example in annual fees, you would pull out answer number 4, which is this is a fee charged every year to use the card. The annual fee is a key term to look at when you shop for a credit card. If you have a good credit history, you can probably find a credit card with a low annual fee or no annual fee for that matter. Okay. So check that out after the workshop and you can do the key term search. So let's talk about rewards really quick too. So some credit cards offer rewards, such as cash rebates on your purchases or points that can be used to purchase other goods or services or airline miles that can be redeemed for plane tickets. Know what you need to qualify for rewards. For example, you might have to spend a certain amount on the card and be sure to understand how much you would have to spend to accumulate enough points or miles to get what you want. Because quite typically, it's a lot. Let me give you a real world example. I have the Chase Rewards card. With the Chase Rewards card, every 10,000 points equals $100. And it takes forever to get to 10,000 points. Yeah, in fact, I want to say 10,000 points. I think you get a point for every dollar you spend, meaning that in order to even qualify for a $100 reward, you have to spend $10,000. That's crazy. That's a lot of money. So anyway, but look at the disclosure so that you know, hey, how many points do I get for my spend here? Because they're offering you these rewards to entice you to use the card more. Don't fall into the trap. Like the Chase Rewards card, $1 for every point. If I have to spend $10,000 to get $100, don't even use it for the rewards. You use it in case you don't have the cash on hand. That's how I see it, because that's a lot of money to spend. Also understand what you need to do to maintain your rewards points. So that's also important. So for example, they may expire if you don't use them in a set period of time. And I'm going to be honest with you, for that Chase Rewards card, I honestly have no idea if there's an expiration on those points. Read the terms and conditions. You would think I know because I'm telling you to read the terms and conditions. I haven't for the rewards, but again, I'm not really using it for that purpose. It's when a big purchase comes up where I need to pay over time or I don't have the cash on hand. So I don't even know. But you can check in the terms and conditions, okay? Think about whether the rewards will cause you to overspend, right? So for example, if a card offers you a reward, if you spend at least 2,000 in the first 90 days, did you even plan to spend that much in the first place? Also consider the fees associated with the cards when you look at the rewards. So for example, a credit card might offer seemingly terrific rewards, but also charge you high fees, which offset the reward that they're giving you. And then remember, shop around, compare credit card A to credit card B to credit card C, because they're all going to have different terms and conditions when it is applicable to the rewards. What are some other important terms associated to credit cards? If you're approved for a credit card, the creditor will set a credit limit for the credit card. This is the maximum credit that you can use. Each creditor has its own standards for determining credit limits. They may consider your credit history, your current income, or any outstanding debt that you have. The grace period is the time between when your statement is issued and when your payments due. During the grace period, you will not be charged interest on new purchases if you pay your balance in full, so the creditor receives it by the due date. The law does not require creditors to provide a grace period, however. Some creditors might provide a grace period for purchases, but not for cash advances and not for balance transfers. If the creditor chooses to provide a grace period, the law requires the creditor to mail or deliver your credit card bill at least 21 days before the payment due date. But also remember that delivery of that could be done online as well as a digital statement. What about balance computation method? So there's a few different methods. You can find out which method a creditor uses by reviewing the credit card application before you apply. Or if you already have the card, you can look at your statement. So also the card holder agreement explains the details on how the method works. So as an example, let's look at how an average daily balance method could work. A creditor might add up the ending balances on the credit card account for each day in the period covered by the credit card statement. Divide that total by the total number of days in that period to get your average daily balance. And then calculate the interest you owe for that period based on that average daily balance. So if you're comparing credit card offers that use different methods to calculate your balance, think about whether you'll be carrying a balance or charging small amounts throughout the month, or making one or only a few large purchases. Other features, products, and services. Cards may offer different customer service features, such as the ability to pay your bill online. Some creditors may give you the option that includes calling a toll-free number to make a payment or visiting a local branch, which I like that option, going in person. Using the app on your phone, or having access to your account online. Some credit cards may also offer you additional features for free. For example, the creditor may extend a warranty period on certain products your purchase using this card. One of the things that I found out about with my card was that on Costco purchases, I think it was, I got an extra year on the warranty for that product I bought. So when I found that out, the last time I bought a television, I bought it from Costco. So instead of getting the 2-year warranty, I got a 3-year warranty. So check that out. That's pretty cool. I want to say that's like a sneaky feature too, that's kind of in the terms and conditions you gotta look for. I mean, again, I didn't even know about it. I read it online when I was TV shopping, and I was like, oh, I'll use my card then to get that extra year. So that's pretty cool. There may also be additional products and services that you can choose. Things like payment protection or credit protection, which helps you make payments if specific hardships occur, whether like unemployment or hospitalization. Know the costs and limitations though. Programs that will monitor your credit reports for signs that a fraudster is attempting to commit fraud on your account, which is kind of cool. There's credit card companies out there that offer this for free. And hey, credit monitoring is not cheap a lot of the times. One of the popular ones that comes to comes to mind is that company LifeLock. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Not the cheapest thing to use, but pretty effective. When I used to work at our bank branch, some of our customers had that LifeLock, and they were telling me about it, but it can get kind of pricey. But it's cool because some credit cards offer that credit protection for free. So see if that's part of the products and services that you're getting for free with your card. And then the other thing is that in addition to the ability of being able to pull that free credit report every year, some credit card companies will give you an additional credit pull for free, which is pretty cool. In the try it section in the participant guide, Siddharth, we have he's trying to choose a credit card. He's a self-employed web designer. After the workshop, check out his scenario. It may help you in understanding the things that you want to compare when you're credit card shopping. Yeah, so check out that scenario. I don't think we have the chart here. Let me see if we have the chart listed. Oh, we do have the chart listed. So you're going to go through on this try it section, and the comparison items are on the left, and then we have the 3 credit cards that he's mulling over. And essentially the comparison items are, hey, does this card have an introductory APR? How long is it? What's the APR in purchases? What's the APR in cash advances? So on and so forth. So check that out and then fill in, and then it may provide some help if you're credit card shopping right now, the things that you should be looking for when you're doing that cross comparison between the cards. Banks and other financial institutions offered both unsecured and secured cards with varying credit limits and rates. So until now, we've been talking about unsecured credit cards. With unsecured credit cards, the creditor lets you borrow money using the credit card or using the card based on their expectation that you're going to repay them. So there's no collateral required. There's another type of credit card, though, that's referred to as a secured credit card. A secured credit card requires collateral. You keep money as collateral, and it's in a dedicated deposit account at a financial institution that issues you the card. So, for example, if you want a secured credit card with a $250 limit, you might be required to deposit $250 into an account that's tied to that. If you do not pay the credit card bill, the financial institution will use that $250 that you deposited into the account to make the payment. This is a good way to rebuild your credit in some instances. If you're trying to rebuild your credit score, this would be a good path that I would recommend in seeking out secured cards and trying to rebuild that credit. Secured credit cards typically have lower credit limits than unsecured credit cards. Some people apply for secured cards, and if they're unable to, they'll get if they're unable to get an unsecured card, then the secured card is the way to go. And it's a good way to rebuild that credit history, like I already said. We'll talk more in the next section about how to manage and use the credit card, whether it's secured or unsecured, and how it relates to your credit history. Applying for a card. So when you decide that you're ready to apply for a card, you'll have several options. So for example, many financial institutions offer credit card products. You can call or visit a local branch or review offers online. You can also get credit cards from several different online or from different retailers as well. Some websites may present credit card offers from several creditors. Creditors often pay to advertise their products on these sites. If you use these sites, consider also reviewing credit card offers from other creditors that you don't see on these sites, such as local banks in your local community. You may get credit card offers via the mail as well. So that's another way that you could do it. Key terms in the application process. Credit card applicant, when you apply for a credit card, you are called the credit card applicant. Remember that providing false information about your income is a crime on an application. Anyone under the age of 21 who wants to obtain a credit card must have a qualified cosigner. Creditor, this is the company that issues you the card. Individual credit, when you apply for credit on your own, it's individual credit. Whereas joint credit is when you're applying for credit with another person. So there's a cosigner on it. Authorized user. An authorized user is someone that you allow to use your credit card account. Just remember that you're legally responsible for paying all the charges that that authorized user makes. That brings us to the close of our first section. So remember that know how credit cards work so that you can more effectively shop around so that you can find one that meets your needs. Okay, and then in our last section, we're going to talk about managing your card. So we're going to find key pieces of information on your credit card statement, explain how different payments and strategies affect the time needed to pay off your credit card and the cost of borrowing, and then list ways to manage a credit card effectively. Okay, so our key takeaway from our last section, credit cards can be a convenient, but manage them carefully to keep costs down and avoid damage to your credit. So reading a credit card statement. If you have a credit card, you receive a monthly statement. It could come in the mail, it could be online. Bill cycles are usually about a month. If you select paperless statements, make sure that you're reviewing your credit card in your app or online. Here's some information. There's the account billing cycle, which is the time period covered by the statement. The account summary, including the previous balance, which is the money that you owed for your last bill. The new balance, what you owe now based on your previous balance, plus any purchases, cash advances, fees, so on and so forth. The credit limit, which is the maximum credit that you can use. Credit available, which is the credit remaining on your account after a new balance is subtracted from the credit limit. The payment information, including new balance, which is what you owe now. Minimum payment due, the minimum dollar amount that you must pay so that the creditor receives it by the due date on the statement, perhaps 3 or 4% of the new balance. Payment due date, the date the creditor must receive the payment. A late payment warning, an explanation of what will happen if you do not make the payment on time. And then minimum payment warning, which is a table that shows how long it'll take to pay off the new balance if you pay only the minimum. So how much you would pay each month to pay off the new balance in 36 months, for example, or 3 years. Information on the statement also includes credit counseling statement, how to obtain information about credit counseling services, notice of changes to your interest rate, changes in the interest rate, if any, transactions or account activity, including transactions made with card, finance charges, whether that be interest, service charges, or transaction fees during the account billing cycle, annual fee and interest tools, the amount you paid in fees and interest during the calendar year, and then interest charge calculation, how the interest was actually charged. And then in this try it section that you'll find in the participant guide and finding items in a credit card statement, it's basically a scavenger hunt to go through a credit card statement to find out where the stuff is. I don't think we have it listed here. Let's see, because essentially in this try it section, there is an example credit card statement. No, we don't have it. So check this out after the workshop. Essentially what you have is you have an example credit card statement. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the items from that statement. So what is the credit limit, which is sometimes called the credit line? You would get that on the sample statement. So check that out after the workshop and you can fill in the different sections that you have here. What is the minimum payment due? When it's due, you'll get that on the statement. And then how long will it take to pay off the credit card at the account? So there's several of these that you can fill in using that sample credit card statement. Steps for managing your card. So credit card debt can accumulate quickly if you don't pay your balance in full each month. It can get costly if late payments result in fees or higher APRs. Here are some basic steps for managing your card effectively. To start, keep good records. Keep your credit card receipts to compare them with your monthly statements. Some people prefer taking pictures of the receipts. That way that you have them on hand and you can throw away the paper copy. You might also be able to have a merchant email you a copy of the receipt. You see this a lot at the self-checkouts now. Check your monthly statements for mistakes. If you find a mistake, contact your creditor right away. You have 60 days after the statement is given to you. You may be asked to opt out of receiving paper statements and instead receive them electronically. If you're receiving them electronically, make sure that you're looking at them, online or on the app. Pay your credit card bill on time and pay at least the minimum amount due each month so that the creditor receives the payment on the due date. If you don't, you'll have to pay a late fee in addition to interest. Late payments and payments of less than the minimum amount due can significantly affect your credit history and reduce your credit score. Postmarks don't count. The creditor has to receive the payment by the due date. If you're mailing your paper payment, make sure to allow sufficient time when mailing. Try to limit how much you owe compared to the credit limit. Like we talked about last week, credit scores are generally higher for consumers who do not max out or otherwise use a large share of their available credit. This is often referred to as the credit utilization rate. Using a large share of your credit limit at any point in the month may have a negative impact on credit scores, even if you consistently pay your balance each month. Some experts advise using no more than 30% of your credit limit, while others advise no more than 20%. This can especially be important to remember for secured credit cards, since credit limits for them are typically lower than unsecured cards. Understand the impact of different payment strategies, including paying only the minimum payment. Over time, you will pay a lot more if you just pay the minimum monthly payments. And if you continue to use the card and your balance increases, those minimums will increase. In this table here, compare the price of items with how much you pay when you only make the minimum payment. This payment strategy can result in many years of payments and you paying lots of interest. If you paid for these items in cash, you would not be charged the amounts in the interest paid column. So here we see that a TV costs $500 and at an 18% APR, you're going to get charged $132 in interest. So the total years to pay off that total balance of $632 would be 3 years. Look at the furniture example. If you pay $2,500 at 18%, the interest that you're going to pay is $5,363. You're going to pay a total of $7,863. If you're making the minimum payment, it's going to take you 23 years to pay off. That's a lot of time for a $2,500 purchase. And here you can see the original balance. So essentially, to save money and avoid paying high interest charges, you'd want to pay off your balance in full each month. That is, of course, if you can do that. If you can't do that, pay as much as you can and as soon as you can. Your creditor will include a table that is similar but not necessarily identical to what you're seeing here to allow you to know that, hey, this purchase at this interest rate is going to be equivalent to you paying this amount of money over time. Okay. How payments are applied to your balance. So you may be wondering how that operation works. So it's important because the creditor may apply different interest rates to different portions of your balance. For example, the portion of your balance from purchases may have a lower interest rate than the portion of your balance from cash advances. Likewise, any balance you transfer from another credit card may have a lower interest rate than other balances on the card. The more of your payment that is applied to the balances with the higher interest rates, the less interest you're going to pay. Creditors can choose how to apply your minimum payment, and they will explain this in the credit card holder agreement. So for example, they may choose to apply the minimum payment to the portion of your balance with the lowest interest rate. By law, creditors generally must apply any amount you pay over the minimum payment to the portion of your balance with the highest interest rate. Tips for using your credit card. In this Apply It section in the participant guide, you can review these tips. After today's training, check this out. It takes 5 minutes to start reviewing the list of tips for managing your credit card effectively. What you do is you're going to check off tips from the list. You want to start or continue doing. If you do not have, do we have them? Yeah, we do. So you can use these tips to manage your credit card effectively. Check the tips from the list that you want to start or continue to do. Review your monthly statement as soon as you receive it. Pay off your balance in full each month to save money and avoid interest. Pay on time to avoid late fees and avoid having late payments. Try to minimize how much you owe in relation to your credit limit. Remember, that's that credit utilization that we talked about, 30 to 20% roughly. Know that using a high percentage of your credit limit at any point in the billing cycle can negatively affect your credit score. Keep a record of important information about your credit cards, which includes keeping your account numbers, expiration dates, things like that. Carry only the credit cards that you expect to use. If you have more than one, put one away somewhere safely and securely. I don't believe we have the rest of the list here, but I'll read them verbally. Read the rules that govern your account. That's in the cardholder agreement. Read all notices and information that you receive from your creditor. Ask the creditor to lower interest rate after you have established a good record of making payments on time. Creditors are not required to do so, but if you've been a long-standing customer, it may be something that you'd want to ask. Think carefully before accepting a balance transfer offer. Be careful with blank convenience checks. Sometimes your creditor will send you in the mail these blank checks that you can use to make purchases, but remember those have different APRs associated to them. Okay. If you need help with managing your credit, I would recommend looking at credit counseling agencies. There's nonprofits out there that can help you, where they have trained, certified credit counselors, where they won't charge you for this type of help. There's also things like Home Again LA and financial literacy that we do, where you might learn things like managing credit cards. Last week, we talked about how to establish a credit score and how to maintain that score. And we have rotating topics every month. Yeah, so there's things like that as well. And so for the close of this section and for the close of our workshop today, credit cards can be convenient, but manage them careful to keep the cost down to avoid damage to your credit. So that brings us to the end. I'd be happy if there's any questions that we might have that came up that I could help you with. And I think I stopped sharing. Did I? Yeah, I stopped sharing.
Yeah. I don't see any questions so far, but I feel like this is always a good one to kind of recap, simply because we all have had that experience in utilizing credit cards, and sometimes we just need that reminder on how
Yeah.
to be diligent and responsible with it. So,
One of the things that kind of was new for me, and I want to impress upon, because I think a lot of this comes in other workshops where we have questions where people go like, well, I'm looking for a credit card because I specifically want to use it for the rewards associated with it.
oh yeah, that's true.
But like I said, it's like, how much do you have to spend to get the reward, right? But here's the other thing that people forget, and it goes back to that credit utilization thing that we talked about that affects your credit score. So remember, if you have say your credit card limits 10,000, that's the amount that you can go up to. If you want to be at a 30 to 20% credit utilization rate so that you have a healthy credit score, even if you have that mentality that I'm going to use that card every month, but pay it off every month, if you're using that card up to that max level, you're negatively affecting your credit score because the credit utilization is higher. So like if you regularly, for whatever reason, in your personal life, or maybe you have a business card, are doing $9,000 purchases every month and you're paying that card off, because your limit is 10, your credit utilization is maxed out almost. So even though you're paying the card off every month, it could have a negative impact on your score. So
That's not
even with
fair.
paying your card off, yeah, so even with paying your card off monthly, it could have negative implications. So just
Yeah.
remember that even if you're paying your card off every month, which is a healthy habit, if you're using too much of that max, then you could be negatively affecting your score.
Mm. Well,
That's
good
something
thing.
people don't really think.
Yeah, good thing to
Yeah.
keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right. All righty, Tom. Well, then I guess we'll catch you next month.
All right. Sounds
All
good. I
right.
hope everyone has a good night. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye, y'all.